This is Doug from expressyourself.org, and today I'll be bringing you guys a tutorial on a Lady Gaga signature that I made. Let me go ahead and make this all visible for you guys so you can see what the final result is. And then I'll go through step by step and explain exactly what I did. The signature actually won Signature of the Week, which is a weekly competition we have. And if you guys aren't members of this site, I would really recommend it. Get a shameless plug in here. We have an awesome community of artists who are willing to share pretty much anything, any resources, tutorials, advice. Everyone's nice. We don't really tolerate assholes, stuff like that. So this is the final result. Again, I'll be going through step by step and showing you guys what I did. So firstly, render selection. You don't want to pick a render that's boring. Alright, I mean, Lady Gaga, first of all, everyone knows who she is. Everybody's going to see this and be like, oh, that's Lady Gaga, you know what I mean? It has a natural flow to it. You see the way her arm is kind of coming up here off to the side. It's kind of sassy, for lack of a better word. But it brings some attitude to the signature as a whole, and it'll just make it that much better. Just right off the bat, if you have a shitty render, it's going to be a shitty signature no matter how good your effects are, no matter how beast you are at making signatures. Alright, so I started off here with just a black background. I used a smudge brush and a pretty neutral color here as the background. This brush, there's a lot of texture to it, adds a lot of details. I added another smudge layer over top with a lighter color this time and set it on overlay. Alright, this creates more depth. It makes it, this is brighter, but the dark portions are still dark. As you can see, the dark portions, like here and here, stay at the same level of darkness. So it adds more contrast, alright? Which is important. Next I had some vector brushes, and I added these little designs here. I don't really know if you can see them in the final result or not. I don't think you really can. But even really subtle changes and effects add to the overall composition of the signature later down the line. Alright, this is my first major alteration to the signature, which was my addition of a C4D here. And it's a C4D called Red Orange Phoenix, and when the C4D itself looks nothing like this. I mean, one of my pet peeves about signature making and stuff like that is that people just paste C4Ds on there. Maybe try to mess with the positioning a little bit, but they don't modify it to match the flow and the tone of the signature, which is just a pet peeve of mine. So when you don't just paste a C4D on here. Sometimes there'll be some really awesome ones that just completely fit, but that is usually not the case. So what I did is I used the sponge tool here. I used a kind of there's a little bit of texture to this brush because you can still see kind of individual strokes within the main smudge. And I'll just go ahead and show you guys my smudge settings right now. Sorry, turn scattering off. Right now I'm making this pattern of smudging is just kind of I'm smudging in a line. So I don't want it scattered all over the place because I have a clear idea of where I want it to go, and I want it to kind of accentuate this flow that I was talking about earlier that's created by her hand coming up near her face in this position. Secondly, I placed another render, another copy of the render over top, and I smudged that. Again, everything is flowing in this direction. Just the flow already, just created by the render, and simple smudging is really good. Next, I added abstract swirls, C4D, and this is one of the ones that I really didn't um, alter that much, besides changing the colors of it pretty much by setting it on divide. And you can see how that changes there. I put another copy of this over top, and you can see pretty easily here. I have a lot of effects right now pretty much going over top of my render, but they're subtle. You don't want huge, like, if this smudging effect over here was on top of the render, that would be really distracting. But you see these subtle effects kind of right here, right in front of the render, that's what you want. Okay, and then the focal of your render is pretty much unscathed. Her face, there's this one thing right here. I thought that was kind of cool because you know, like, she wears makeup, and sometimes like that comes down the side of her face at angles, and creates like a flow, and it adds to this swirl up here. So there's this big swirl coming across, but it doesn't distract from your focal. Alright, and that is also set on divide. Next, I added colors that I wanted and some more effects over top of the render. Right now this part is sticking out too much for me. My eye is still kind of drawn to this area, so what you do, you just cover it up a little bit with something, or you can blur it. But I decided to add a red brush there. I also added a red brush over on this side. Alright, next I actually used a brush, and I just painted a little bit right over top of her arm here, and then smudged out to accentuate this smudge right here. And that kind of creates, it blends more because it's not just this one thing sticking out. It goes lighter, and then there's one piece that's darker there. Creates some depth. This really easy to do this step. You just get a brush, you set it on a soft brush that's about like 5 or 6 pixels in size, and you just paint in dots, white dots. Alright, that's it. My first gradient map here, soft light, and this gradient. My second gradient map is normal, and it is, I mean, depending on what colors are prominent in your signature, gradient maps are all going to be different. It's really just preference. Actually, this sig looks really cool in black and white, if I can show you guys that for a second. It looks pretty cool, but yeah, I like the colors a little better because like the Lady Gaga figure, I mean, just from her lipstick, it's like that Rush American Beauty rose kind of color, and I wanted that to come out in the signature. I didn't want it to be black and white. Okay, this step adds a lot of contrast and difference just from here to here. Look at the difference in that. This is a really good technique I actually learned from Red Boy, who was on the forums, and it is done by first you want to apply your image so that you have your image in your layer here. You can do that by going to Image, Apply Image. Then you go to Filter, Other, High Pass. Okay, and I set it about a radius of like pretty close to 100, so which is about 100 pixels. And then you hit OK, and you set this layer on soft light. What this is going to do is it's going to separate out pretty much the darks from the lights, and it adds contrast and sharpness actually to the whole signature. It's just a great filter. Here I added a light source coming from the top here near my focal point. Then I added a gradient of pin light to make the light not just the white color, because it kind of stands out a little too much. Now it's more of a purplish color. Then I added my borders, and finally I added one last gradient map on under normal to kind of flatten it out a bit and add more of that reddish purple kind of tone to it. So that is my tutorial. I hope it's not too long because I can only upload a certain amount to YouTube. But if anyone would like me to go more in depth, this is just kind of a general overview. Just leave a comment asking me specifically this step, what did you do? And I can either make a video response or just simply type it out and tell you. Alright guys, thanks for watching.